Hi Blender fans and welcome to Blender DC. Have you ever wanted to actually add a candle to your scene or just to enhance your scene with a bit of light? Then the actual new ray tracing feature in Eevee 4.2 is what you need. But first of all, let's make a candle. The candle what we're going to actually use is a low poly candle that is going to help us actually create a light that can be put in the corner of your scene and will enhance your scene, giving that little bit extra lighting to your scene. But first of all, let's make a candle. So for this candle, in my community tab, you can find a picture of the candle and it gives you the full description on how you can actually download that picture. The picture is free to use in any way you wish. So let's begin and make our realistic candle. First of all, delete the cube by pressing X and delete, and we're going to add in our reference image. As you can see, I've got Y running front to back and X running left to right for our scene. So I'm just going to add in our image, which you've downloaded from my community tab. Image. Right, the reference image is one that you've just downloaded, and we're going to use the candle ping. Now this candle ping is in the wrong place, so I'm just going to G and Z just to move it up so it's level with my scene, and I'm going to move it backwards, so G and Y across there just to actually put it on the back of my scene, and this is what we're going to actually use to actually make our candle. Now it's up to our low poly. If you've got this candle in the background, then keep it really low poly, but I'm going to add in a mesh, and the mesh that we've got is a cylinder because it's roughly the right shape already. So add in a cylinder, and I'm just going to move that up, and then I'm going to scale it down till it fits the candle. G, which is the go key, and Z in the purple line down to there. So we've got our candle, but first of all, if we actually look at this, we'll just shade smooth it to start with. As you can see, we've got some distortion there, so first of all, let's get rid of the distortion. Press the tab key to go into edit mode, and we're just going to actually select that face and Control and R to put a loop cut just to sharpen that face. Right, to improve the actual topology of this, I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to E to extrude and S to scale that. E to extrude and S to scale that, which will make our candle base look correct. So looking from the front, what we're going to do is go into edit mode, press the tab key and select our top face, and then just move that up. So G and Z, we'll just move it up to there just before the bend starts, and we're going to add a loop cut because we're going to use a subdivision modifier to actually change these. I'm going to do that because that looks like it's around a corner, so when we add our subdivision modifier, it will roll this corner over. You can also use a bevel, but you know, to keep your topology down, it's entirely up to you. I'm just going to do this in the simple way. So I'm selecting the top face, looking from the front, and E and Z, just to actually move it up to about there. Pressing the full stop key will actually take you closer into your image, so then you can actually scale this down like that. As you can see, this is a very sharp corner, but if we add our subdivision modifier now, you'll see the actual image slightly change. So go into here, search SUB for subdivision surface, and as you can see, our candle is already changing. So we've got that, and it's rounding our corners out, and if we actually increase it to 3, then you can see our candle edge really changes. So selecting this top here, and we'll select this line by pressing the Alt key and selecting it, and just scale this up until our candle fits our whole image like that. And it's entirely up to you how many loop cuts you add to this just to actually get it so it's inside your image. What we want to be able to do is actually see the image of the candle on the outside, just to know that we've got the actual right shape. And if it's not exactly following the actual curve, what you can do is add a loop cut in between, just scale that out. So we've got our type of candle. Candles, they seem to get warmer, they get bigger at the top, Don't know why this is, but it's just one of those things. So one, I've selected that top face, E to extrude, S to scale, and I'm going to take that till it's about in that point, and then extrude along the Z, just to take it there, and E, and scale, and rotate, or just move, and G, just so it actually mimics our candle. As you can see, inside the flame, the candle head seems to vanish, so I'm just actually leaving that in the dome shape there, and I'll just add a loop cut in here just to sharpen this up slightly, like that. So we've got our candle, and as you can see, we've got a bit of distortion in there, and the easiest way to get rid of this distortion is just to E and scale, and E and scale. So we've got our candle shape quickly and easily, so let's just add the actual colour to this. For this, what we're going to do is go into a thing called UV editing, but first of all we need to actually attach our image to this. So what we can do is, as you can see, there's no image there, so we put new like that, which fetches up this box, and then you've got your base colour, and we're going to go into image texture, and we'll open the image that we actually created earlier on, which of course is our candle ping, same as the actual one we use for our reference image. So if we actually go into this, we wait for Blender to actually catch up. As you can see, we've got our image of our candle, but it's not looking correct. So what we need to do now is just go into a thing called UV editing, just to add our candle to this. And we're going to select our candle and then press the A key to select all. And as you can see, all it's done is unwrapped our cylinder. So what we do is look from the front, because this is a simple low poly texture that's going to be actually in the background out of the way. What we can do now is actually press the U key. The U key fetches up this menu, and what we can do is do a thing called project from view. And as you can see, our candle now is just there in our box. So it's just a quick and simple thing of G, just move it down towards the actual center of our image, just like that. Bit of guesswork, and just scale this up by pressing the S key and G, and I'm just moving it across on our image. What you want it to do is the image wants to actually go around the outside of our item, so I'm just going to scale this down until I can see all the way around our image, and that of course is going to be our candle. Scaling the Y just to actually lengthen it a little bit, and I'm G just to move it so it's more or less in the center, and over our wick, because we want our wick texture to actually go over here as well. So a quick look at this, and out of edit mode, and as you can see, we've now made our candle texture for our image. So we've done the candle, but if we actually look in render mode, as you can see, it's very, very dark. And the way we get around this is going into our shading tab, and this has got an alpha transparency on it, so we go from color to alpha, which actually will give it a bit of the texture. In fact, we won't use the alpha on this because we don't need it to have any alpha transparency, because it's actually the candle and not very see-through. But what we do need on this is some emission strength. So we'll open this emission tab here, like that, and we're going to go color to color. What this does is add an emission to this, and if we just set this to 1, that will make it glow as though the candle is in place. So if we actually go into render mode, as you can see, the candle seems to be glowing somewhat, but it would do from the flame anyway. For this is good enough for your scene, because this candle is going to be looked at from the front like that. Right, next of all, let's just actually rename that. This is going to be our candle, like that. And now let's add in the flame itself. To make the flame itself, what we're going to do is add in a mesh, and the mesh we're going to add in is a plane. G and Z, move this up to the top, rotate it in the X by 90, just to actually look at it like that. And then we'll move it up just so the base, then we'll move it up G and Z just so the base is more or less where our flame is, but above the actual candle image. So that's our flame, and we're going to scale this along the X until it just actually goes on our flame. Whenever you actually alter the actual a plane or an image on this, what you can do is we can actually apply rotation as scale, and you just press Ctrl and A, which will fetch this menu up like that. We don't need this image at the background anymore, so I'm just going to press the X key and delete it. So as you can see, we've got an actual, let's just go back into layout because it's a bit easier to see it. We've got the actual candle there, and we've got the plane, and I'm going to call the plane the flame. So we've got our candle, we've got our flame, so let's just start working on our flame. Press the tab key, right click, and we're just going to subdivide this by 10 by opening this menu down here. Now this should be enough for actually use our plane, and now what we're going to do is actually use the cloth modifier for our flame. But if you want to see this working first, let's just add our texture to this. So this is quite simple again. Press the tab key. We're going to add in the same material that we use for the actual candle, like that, and as you can see, it shows our full candle. Into UV editing again, and as you can see, we've got our plane there, so I'm just going to A to select all, scale it down until it just covers our flame itself, and G, scale, and just scale this in the Y just till it actually covers our whole flame. And as you can see, we've already got our flame, and yet again, as you can see, this time our transparency is black, so we'll just change this transparency to clear. So into your shading tab, and this is where you use the alpha transmission. So just actually go into there. So let's have a look, and as you can see, the sides of our candle are now transparent. You might want a thinner flame, and that's quite easy to do just by scaling it along the X like that if you wish your flame to be narrow or wide. So I'm just going to narrow it slowly, and then Ctrl and A to rotation and scale. So that's all well and good if you want a static candle in your scene in the distance, but we don't want that, we want to make it move. So quickly and easy, we're going to actually make this move by using a thing called the cloth modifier, and an interesting technique that's going to actually use a hook. So first of all, we want to make a vertex group in our candle, because if we actually just add the cloth modifier in, I'll just show you. As you can see, it's vanished from our scene because it's just falling through our candle like that. That's me just pressing the space bar just to show you the animation. So we need this to stay on top of our candle just here. So that's why we need to actually make our hook and our vertex group. So what I'm going to do is just take the actual bottom point of the, as you can see, we're catching the candle slightly there in our texture. So let's just go back into UV editing and fix that problem. So A to select all, and I'm just going to take that up slightly, G and Z, just so it's just on our candle alone. And if we actually look back on our candle part, as you can see, now it's just the flame. I'm just going to move the flame slightly, G and X, just to the side, just so it goes back over our wick, just for that little bit of realism, like that. So now let's actually do something. So I'm going to go onto this in the layout window. Tab key will take us into edit mode. I'm going to go into point select, and I want to select that point, and I want to select all the points in between. So I press the Control key. Let's get rid of that window, just lower that window. And now what we're going to do is go onto our data tab here, and we're going to make what we call a vertex group. So vertex group, and we just assign what we've just made, and I'm going to call this my hook. The reason I'm calling it a hook is because this is going to be a fixed area. So back into the physics tab, and we go all the way down, and you've got a thing called shape, and under shape there's a thing called pin group, and we're just going to select our hook that we had earlier. So if I actually run this now, press the tab key, what we should see is that's now a cloth, and it'll fall down through itself and just curl down like that. But as you can see, it's actually been fixed into there. If we just hide our candle, then it's more visible. Right, see, and that is our candle. But now we need to actually add in a bit of realism. So what we're going to do is actually the cloth has got a gravity which is called a field weight down here. So what we're going to do is actually we're going to change the actual field weight right down here, and we're just going to change this to 0. Now if we change that to 0, that means there's 0 gravity working on this, which means our candle flame will not fall, no matter how we do, because we haven't got gravity working on it. And this is where you can actually make this into your candle quite easily by adding in a force field. Just one other thing I forgot to mention when we're actually doing this is in our collision tab, which is found somewhere around here. We're looking for collision. What you need to do is enable self collision, because we don't want the flame going through itself. So we've got our candle flame, and we've hidden our candle at present, because this is, we're just going to highlight how we make the flame. So I'm just going to add in a force, and this is a wind force. So let's just actually look at force field, and we're going to add in a wind force. As you can see, our wind force comes up here, and if we look over here, this is the actual strength of our wind that we've got. So G and Z, I'm just going to move this up so it's easier to see it, and the way it works on our image. Let's press stop. What I'm going to do is go into the properties of this, because I don't want our flame to dance all over the place. I just want to move it slightly. So I'm just going to actually change this to 4 degrees. And if we look at our candle, in fact, let's change that to 0. I'm going to change the rotation along the Y to 4 degrees. As you can see now, we've got a little force field running round on our candle flame. And if I press play, as you can see, nothing happens. And the reason nothing happens is because it's not a very strong wind. We've got the wind there, and we'll just actually look to the actual strength of the wind, which is found under here, which is one of our physics properties, and we can actually increase this wind to whatever we want. So if I change it to 5,000, as you can see, our candle dances in the wind. Looking from our camera, and just a little bit of readjustment, so we're looking from the front. But because this is a low poly candle, this actually makes it work quite well. So we've got our candle moving about in the wind. As you can see, our candle, it seems to stop and then turn and then run around a bit. So what we're going to do is actually alter the angle of our wind, just to make it look that little bit more real. So what we'll do is actually select our wind force, and we're going to insert a keyframe on this. So if we go into its properties, go into transform, we've got a rotation here which is C, and I'm going to make it 0 just there, and I will actually make a keyframe, take it to the end by pressing shift and right click or your cursor clicks, take it to the end, and we're just going to change the Z to 360. And press I again. So what we're doing now is, as you can see, our wind force is actually rolling round, so it actually makes that flame just look that little bit more real. And then all we need to do is that we need to actually bake our cloth into this. So just go down in here. Go into cache on there, and we're going to actually bake our properties in. So bake. And as you can see, our candle seems to move about. I forgot to actually bake there, which then will make our animation frame work. And a little bit of messing about, and we actually get our candle. Pressing Alt and Hide will make our candle reappear, and we've made ourselves quite a good candle. Right, in our scene, let's just add a mesh, and we're going to add in a plane. So as you can see, we've got a plane there, and we've got our sun there. And if we go into render mode, as you can see, I'll just scale this up. Our candle there actually generates a shadow, and what we don't want to do is we don't want our flame to actually generate a shadow of the shape. And we take away its shadow, or your candle flame wouldn't generate a shadow. And here comes the fun part, and this is the bit you've been waiting for. All we've got to do now is actually do a bit of compositing. As you can see, the glare there is being turned into a fog glow. So I'm going to actually put the bloom on to actually make it look more realistic. Back into layout, go into rendered, and if we render that out now, pressing F12, as you can see, our candle flame has now got a glow on the top of it. And of course, by increasing the actual strength of our bloom in compositing, there we can actually change our size and our thread. And in the emissions tab on our shading there, we can actually increase the strength of our emission if we wish. So you got the strength of the emission. We'll take it up to 1.5 just to get that more of a glow. And if we actually to render this out now, you'll see that our flame has got a bit of a glow now. So that makes it look that little bit more real and can be used as a actual flame, a moving flame in your scene. And we've made ourselves quite a realistic candle. And then if we just render it, F12, as you can see, we've now got a candle, maybe a little bit bright, but you get the idea. And of course, using the actual advanced feature of the ray tracing in Eevee that's actually been added since 4.2, just going to add ray tracing to this, so our scene becomes that much more realistic. Pressing F12 again, and as you can see, the actual glow is now reflected in there, because you can see the glow on the ground there, like that. And then of course all I did was added some rocks, add a couple of Tauruses, give them some colour, and that made my candle image that you saw in the actual front thumbnail and at the beginning of this video. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you found it interesting and useful, then of course subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, or just press that like button. And of course, if you ever want to actually make this into an actual proper scene in Blender, let's just actually show you how you would actually save this in real time. So what we do is actually go onto here. What we've got here is like a little output icon, which looks a bit like a printer with a piece of paper into it, and then you actually put where you want your animation to be. So I mean FFmpeg videos, It's quite a good way of doing it. And then you, of course, you just actually put the file path you want. G, Blender work, candle, what you want to call it. So candle animation, press the full stop key, and then accept. And then, of course, because of that, all you need to do is actually go down here to render and then render animation. I'd say all you need to do to actually make this a bit more interesting is we can just add some different shapes, G and Z, take a torus, or something like that. Add another colour to it, new material, darkish material, like that. Make it reflective at all. Reflective. Take the roughness down, 0.01, which is next to nothing. And if we were to render this out now, you get something that looks quite real in our scene. Still think that's a little bit too bright, so I'm going to actually click on our candle and I'm going to change the actual strength back down to 1. Sorry I missed that bit. I always forget to actually show people how they can actually just render out their scenes. So just that little extra bit on the end, just to actually show you how we did that. Bye for now.